Hey guys, welcome back to the Bayside Fabrication YouTube channel. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe if you've been digging our videos. And we have another good one for you today. We are finishing up our rear mounted radiator. So what I have here is my radiator. I have two 14-inch fans. These are cheap ones. They say they flow 2400 CFM. They're cheap Chinese ones. They probably flow half that. Either way, we can always upgrade them to spows if they don't do the job, but I think they're gonna be just fine. So we have our Corvette radiator here, and what we're doing is making a shroud for it. So what I did here was I measured the ID of the radiator, so from here to here, and we're gonna bend a 90 in it. And then we will mount it on either side. We'll cut our holes for our fans, mount the fans, done deal. So that's gonna be an easy thing. One-handed. So that didn't quite bend 90. And the reason for that is my bottom die, I was using a piece of angle actually, just a piece of steel angle. And that's not the correct die for bending a true 90. So what I'm gonna have to do is I'll probably have to knock it out by hand a little bit. But let me show you kind of the idea of what we're doing here. So that's gonna go something like that. So at this point we have to cut the holes for the fans. So what I do is take the fan off the shroud. So I simply just unbolted the fans from the shroud. And now we will trace the fan itself, and I'll probably go, I don't know, a 1/4 inch past the edge of the fan, and that'll give us perfect template to cut our holes out. So it's just kind of an easy way to do it, so that way you're not guessing, you don't cut too much or too little, and it gets done right the first time. And actually, the thickness of this Sharpie, it's probably pretty good, so we're gonna try to hold it straight up and down. And there we go. So you saw me just cut out those two discs with the plasma cutter, just a rough cut. Now we did that because I have this nice air nibbler here. I'm actually borrowing this from Laz. I need to buy one. I don't know why I don't own one yet. But we had to do that so this relief will be able to bend up. Right now, we just went in like, I don't know, 3/8 of an inch on the inside of our line. And now we're just gonna finish it up and give it a nice clean cut with this. So this is the only problem with this tool, is especially with thicker stuff like this, is once it curls up, it will get caught up in here, and then it will pretty much stop the cut. So you kind of have to deal with that, but So it's not too bad. We can go and take a little, our air sander, just kind of smooth it out. Just to get rid of those any sharp burrs or anything like that. But that's gonna be perfect. So that's perfect. Now we have our areas to fasten to the shroud, and these fans will actually stiffen this panel up. I know the panel looks, the shroud actually looks, you know, pretty flimsy, because it kind of is. We took a lot of material out, but this will, these will stiffen the shroud right up once it's bolted in. Okay guys, now we're just mounting this fans up. We just are using these little guys here. I think they're number 8s by half. And we're just threading into the factory mounts here. I think that should be it. So this adds a ton of rigidity to our panel here, because I was going to take this edge and put a bend on it, but I don't even think that's necessary. So let's get the radiator over here and see how it looks. I mean, you can't ask for much better than that. So you can see there's a little wiggle here, so I actually might throw just a little 45 on this just to give it some rigidity. So I'm actually probably gonna do that now. I'll do it on the top and the bottom. I'll just add a little bend. I'll pull the fans off and redo that. So that's something I should have done ahead of time. I should have actually added an extra inch or so and bent it just like I did these sides, but we're not gonna redo it. It's just one of those things, hindsight's 20/20 kind of deal, and we'll still be okay with that. I'll do it just inside here. I'll do it from here to here. I'll throw a little kick in it. Like I said, probably just a little 45. All right guys, check this out. If you don't have a sheet metal brake, this is a kind of a quick and easy way how to do a bend on thin sheet metal like this. So what I have is a piece of, this is 1 by what, 2 by 1/8 rectangle tubing. And what I did is I just clamped it to create a straight edge. And then take our little body hammer here and we fold it until it's a 90. So I already did this side. So it's not perfect like you'd get on a brake, but it works just fine. It's kind of a down and dirty trick that I've done in situations like this, because I don't have a brake or a brake that can handle this width rather. So it's just one of those things that it's pretty easy to do. It's not a perfect bend. It's not like super legit looking at the end product, but I'll show you. You guys will see. So here's the end result. So it did fold up here. We have some dollies. We'll hammer that down or just flatten it out. It doesn't really matter. The radiator fans cover that anyways. But there we go. Sit something just like that. Okay, as for mounting this radiator shroud, we have it clamped down here. So we got a nice seal along the bottom, sealed up along the sides and the top. And to mount this, we're just gonna do 4 angle brackets. So what I'm thinking is something like this, and then we'll do a female side or an opposite side to there, just through bolt it. And then I came up with this. I just bent this little piece of aluminum, and that's going to sit there. We'll weld this to the bottom of the radiator, and that way we can through bolt it. So effectively, it'll look something like that at the end. Okay guys, this is what we were talking about for our mounts. Now on the sides, what I have is this little mount. See how they're stepped off like that? And that's to create this right here. See that step? So these are just gonna go just like this. One here, and this shroud is gonna be more secure than any shroud has probably ever been, so. Okay, what we're working on in between our radiator shroud is this is going to be a adapter, or a bung rather, for our coolant temp. And our coolant temp is going to go probably somewhere right along here. Now this is our outlet, so this is gonna be the hot water coming out of the thermostat. And so we want to do it on the hottest setting, or on the hottest tube rather. So what I have here is a M14 by 1.5 millimeter threads that I have to tap. So this is actually an old piece that I messed up on, it was an old bracket I messed up. So we're going to use this. So what we're doing is we're just taking a hole saw, we're going to drill a hole there, and then we're going to cope the side of it to match the tube. So I'll show you that, how the coping works. But with aluminum, you want to go nice and slow and have a really sharp bit. If you go fast, it'll heat up and it will clog up the teeth on the saw. And once those teeth get clogged up, it really provides a crappy cut quality. Okay, check this out. We just drilled and tapped our bung fitting for our sensor. So that's all good. Now what we're going to do is we have to cope this to match the tube. So what I want to do is not to impede any flow. We're going to take the end of this sensor and make it flush with the inside of the tube when we weld it. So we're going to notch this with our hole saw here. We'll re-tap it to clean up the threads. And at the end, this flat part should be flush on the inside of the tube for the coolant. So we just went in and cleaned up the threads. And what we'll do is we'll just kind of manually bevel this for a good weld. But that's going to sit right on our tube like that. So that's pretty much perfect. So that's where our sensor will sit. And this will really go probably somewhere right here. I think right here. It's a good spot. So we'll drill a hole in here and make this happen. Okay guys, just buttoning this up here. I got our sensor welded in. And you just need to make a bracket to hold this, these tubes together. Probably make one off the engine or something like that, but that's not super critical. One thing I did want to note is that I took my expansion tank off. We'll actually pop it right off here. Okay, so I just removed the old expansion tank, and from everybody I've talked to, this should work fine without it. The radiator back here is the highest part of the whole cooling system, so that should be sufficient. So I just looped this coolant line here. I just looped it instead of, this was the factory coolant line that went to the factory expansion tank. So instead of going to the tank and back, I just looped it. So I'm hoping we won't have any issues. In theory, it should all work. And I'm going to put some coolant in this thing and get it fired up right now and see if I can burp the system here. Okay, we have our radiator filled. We have our radiator filled now, and so far it's taken 2 gallons of coolant. So we're gonna start it up, see if the sucker starts circulating. Okay guys, I had a minor situation. So I wasn't seeing any flow in the radiator and I don't know what was going on. But the temperature was staying at the halfway point and I just think there was an air bubble in the system. I really don't know what was happening. But our outlet was getting super hot, inlet was cold, but I don't think it was flowing any water, to be honest with you. So, and I'm feeling this hose right here, and this is cold. I think I need this expansion tank back here to burp the system. So I'm gonna pull this off and throw the expansion tank back on and see if that resolves our problems here. All right guys, had some problems with this. I'm not sure if there's just a big air bubble in the system that I can't get out, or if there's too much head pressure from the rear mounted radiator, because it is significantly higher than the water pump, and it just can't push the volume. So the issue is I'm not really getting much flow to the radiator, which leads me to believe that, and that is causing it to, the needle will just stay centered, but then if I start revving it, it feels like it just doesn't go anywhere, then the needle will just spike randomly. So I let it sit overnight. I got coolant absolutely everywhere. All right. This might look a little crazy, but there's a lot of air bubbles coming out of this system. I know it's hard to see. I don't know if you guys can see in there, but she's bubbling away. So maybe this will do the trick. Okay guys, I think that little trick did it. I think we are fighting a massive air bubble, because now I can actually see the coolant flowing through the radiator now. Before it was stagnant, like it would move a little bit, but it was not flowing through the radiator. I bet, see how these lines go high and low? And then they go low and up, you know what I mean? They kind of do one of those things. I think we had air trapped in the system. But jacking it up like that was, these air bubbles were bubbling out like crazy. So now we're getting a little steam out of the coolant here, which is a great sign. I can see it moving all around. Our engine temp is right where we want it to be. So we're gonna let it run here, and maybe this is it. And we won't need an auxiliary pump. We'll see. All right. Radiator is burped, works, and we got our wheels on.